5 prophetic signs confirmed. How miraculously God sent this heavenly soul for your divine purpose. In the quaint English village of Oak Ridge, whispers of the miraculous swirled like mist over the rolling hills. Sarah, a devoted mother of 2, lived a life anchored in faith and the local church, a sacred haven of ancient stone and glimmering stained glass. She poured her heart day after day into prayers to St. Jude, the patron of lost causes. Yet within the chaos of family life and the skepticism of her husband, Michael, a supernatural yearning flickered within her soul, hinting at a divine purpose waiting to unfold. The village was suffering a drought, and the air felt thick with despair. Crops wilting in the fields mirrored the sinking spirits of the townsfolk. But something stirred deep in Sarah's heart, a voice beckoning her towards hope. Sunday came, and as she entered the church, the atmosphere hummed with unspoken anticipation. Just then, a stranger appeared. David, with a presence that commanded attention, stood in the weathered pulpit, casting a grin that breathed warmth into the cold church. "Kneel, beloveds," he said with a voice like rolling thunder. "For today is a day of healing, renewal, and divine revelations." His words struck Sarah like a rush of wind, invigorating her spirit. As he spoke, she envisioned a golden light encircling the congregation, filling their hearts with joy. She heard gasps of awe, murmurs of hope. David painted pictures of crops flourishing against all odds, families united in faith, and lost souls, like flickers of candlelight, restored in God's embrace. But some remained reticent, a murmur of doubt rippling through the pews. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As days passed, Sarah felt the flame of David's message igniting in her veins. But it soon flickered as shadows fell. A chilling fear struck when her youngest, Lucy, fell gravely ill. Panic gripped Sarah, her heart pounding with an urgency that only a mother could know. The village buzzed with whispered worries, and doubts began to creep back into her mind. Would God listen? Would St. Jude intercede? In desperation, she gathered the villagers in the church courtyard as the sun dipped below the horizon. Voices rose, woven into a tapestry of faith, piercing the night's silence as they called upon St. Jude. The air crackled with fierce intensity, and then as if heaven itself opened, a luminous glow washed over Lucy. Just like that, she began to recover, to breathe easier. Gasps of astonishment filled the courtyard. Mouths were agape, and hallowed tears fell like raindrops on parched soil. Even the doctors were left bewildered, scratching their heads as whispers of miracles spread like wildfire. They questioned it, yet the village united, basking in the warmth of newfound faith. Sarah's heart soared, but her joy was tinged with an unsettling doubt. What did this all mean for her? Her purpose within this divine unfolding? As villagers embraced their miraculous healing, Sarah gazed longingly towards the horizon, knowing the journey of faith had only just begun. What divine purpose awaited her now? Would the answers soon emerge, entwined with the very fabric of their community? The questions hung heavy, yet the glow of possibility brightened the path ahead. With each passing day, the atmosphere in Oak Ridge grew thicker with hope. Sarah felt as if she were floating in a sea of faith, waves crashing against her heart, with every prayer spoken in gratitude. The villagers, once tired and worn, walked with a newfound bounce in their step, heads held high as they exchanged smiles and joyful greetings. Yet, for Sarah, a question lingered. What did this all mean for her? As summer slipped into early autumn, the vibrant oranges and reds painted the fields around the village. One crisp morning, she noticed a small gathering of women near the local well. Curiosity tugged at her heart, so she approached, and at the center stood Mary, one of her dearest friends, with tears glistening in her eyes. "Sarah," Mary exclaimed, pulling her into an embrace. "You won't believe what just happened. Andrew found water, deep in the eastern fields. We haven't seen rain in months, but somehow, The earth is flowing with life again. A chorus of excited chatter erupted, and Sarah's heart raced. This is no mere coincidence, she whispered, feeling an overwhelming sense of purpose swell within her. The village was awakening, responding to the divine whispers all around. That evening, Sarah returned to the church to offer her heartfelt thanks, the warm glow from the altar illuminating the stone walls. Alone in the hushed sanctuary, she knelt before the flickering candles. In that moment, she pleaded, "Lord, reveal your purpose to me. Show me how I can contribute to this revival." As she prayed, the church grew silent. A soft breeze danced through the open windows, carrying a faint whisper that caressed her cheek. "You will be the voice of hope," it seemed to say. "Guide others to believe." Jumping to her feet, Sarah felt a fierce determination replace her fear. The essence of what had transpired was crystallizing. She was not merely a passive believer in need of salvation. She was a part of something greater, a steward of faith in her community. With this renewed vigor, she sought out David, the stranger who had sparked their awakening. Together, they gathered the villagers for an evening assembly. The air crackled with energy as Sarah shared her vision, the collective pulse of hope resonating within each soul present. "What if we prayed for miracles together?" she suggested, her eyes wide with excitement. "What if we called upon the saints for strength and guidance as one? In unity, our faith can achieve the unimaginable." Cheers erupted around her, echoing against the twilight sky as each person embraced Sarah's fervor. The villagers began to prepare for the great prayer gathering, an event to usher in faith, healing, and perhaps a long-awaited rain. Days turned into a week, and the anticipation built like a spring storm. The night before the gathering, Sarah stood by her window, her heart racing. She felt torn. What if the prayers were answered, and what if they weren't? Were they truly ready to face the divine? Amidst her apprehension, the luminous glow of stars filled the sky, each one a whisper of promise. Suddenly, the question bubbled up within her mind. What would happen if all their prayers were granted? Would they be able to comprehend the depth of such miracles? As midnight approached, Sarah closed her eyes and surrendered her doubts. "Lord, guide us through tomorrow's gathering. May we receive whatever is meant for us." With the dawn came a renewed spirit, and villagers began to gather at the church once more. Faces were lit with expectation, every soul pregnant with wonder, but could they truly be ready for what awaited them? As prayers filled the air, something monumental stirred. Would the gathering transform their lives forever? Or would God's will lead them down an unexpected path? The anticipation hung heavy in the crisp morning air as they stood together at the threshold of divine possibility. As the sun rose higher in the sky, the village of Oak Ridge shimmered with anticipation. The church, usually a sanctuary of solitude, buzzed with life as villagers gathered in clusters, laughter and voices blending into a symphony of hope. Sarah looked around, her heart swelling as she saw faces alight with expectation. David, standing beside her, stepped forward and raised his arms, beckoning the crowd to listen. "Friends, today we gather to lift our hearts in unified prayer. We seek the Lord's grace, healing, and the miracles we so desperately need." His voice rang out like a bell, steady and clear. Kneeling before the assembled villagers, he breathed deeply before beginning the prayer. "Dear Heavenly Father," he started, and an electric hush fell over the crowd. "We come before you as one body together in faith, ready to receive the blessings you have in store for us." The air was thick with reverence. Sarah squeezed her hands together, feeling the coolness of the stones beneath her knees. She looked around and saw many familiar faces, their eyes glistening with unshed tears, hearts wide open to the divine presence. Her spirit soared, believing that something extraordinary was unfolding. As David prayed, a gentle breeze swept through the open doors, rustling the pages of an old hymn book lying on a nearby pew. For a fleeting moment, the villagers almost held their breath, as if the very atmosphere crackled with divine energy. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. There was no mistaking it, God was moving. "Lastly, Lord," David continued, "we ask for direction in our lives, for the fire of faith to ignite within us, guiding us to our true purpose." With each word, the collective heartbeat of the crowd synchronized, echoing a melody of yearning. Suddenly, A bright light filtered through the stained glass windows behind the altar. The colors danced upon the villagers' faces, vibrant reds, deep blues, and shimmering greens, casting an ethereal glow. Gasps of awe rippled through the assembly. Murmurs of "Look, and can you see that?" sparked a holy curiosity. Sarah's heart raced at this unexpected phenomenon. What was happening? It was as if the heavens themselves were responding, affirming their prayers. Her spirit was drawn upward, sensing the sacred in the ordinary. In a moment of sheer inspiration, she rose to her feet and stepped forward. "God is with us," she declared, her voice gaining strength with each word. "He hears our cries. We are not alone in the wilderness. Let us embrace this moment. Let us share our hopes and fears." Villagers began to share their own stories, voices rising in a rush of faith and vulnerability. A mother spoke of her sick child, pleading for healing. A young man confessed his doubts, seeking guidance. Each testimony was met with murmurs of support, each plea solidifying their unity in spirit. As Sarah listened, she realized this gathering was more than just a day of prayer. It was a communal cleansing of souls, revealing the burden each carried, a shared moment in their journey of faith. Slowly, she understood. God wasn't just answering their prayers. He was forging them into a family bound by faith. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting a golden hue over the gathering, the villagers began to sense a powerful stirring in the atmosphere. The sense of divine possibility felt palpable. Could it be that their prayers would change the very fabric of their lives? The moment hung heavy with promise. Each person seemed to sense it, their faces lit by the fire of hope. What awaited them on this profound day of outpouring? How deep would this divine revelation go? With expectant hearts, they clung tightly to the possibility of miracles. As they prepared for the next phase of their gathering, a question lingered in the air. Would they be ready for whatever God had planned next? As the golden hue of the sun continued to glow around them, a deeper sense of peace settled over the crowd. They were no longer just villagers. They were a living tapestry of faith, woven together in a shared experience that seemed to transcend time and space. The stories shared had ignited a spark within each heart. There was a sense of expectancy, as if the cool evening air itself was pregnant with promise. Now, David called out, "Let us listen for God's voice among us." He turned his gaze to the gathered villagers, inviting them to open their hearts even wider. In this moment of unity, we must also be still. Let us listen for words of encouragement, healing, and direction. Everyone closed their eyes, taking deep breaths. The wind carried whispers of promise through the trees outside, and for a moment, time stood still. As silence enveloped them, Sarah felt a stirring deep within. It was as if the air itself vibrated with unseen energy. She whispered a prayer of her own. "Lord, show us the way. We are listening." Suddenly, a tremor of energy cascaded down her spine, sending shivers of warmth coursing through her body. With eyes still closed, she felt a gentle nudge to speak. "I believe," she opened her mouth, words flowing from her soul, "that God is calling us to step more boldly into our purpose. We are being asked to shine our light in the darkness." The villagers opened their eyes, curiosity lighting their faces. It was as if they were awakening from a slumber, realizing their own potential. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. "Let your light shine," called an elderly woman from the back, her voice steady and strong. "Let it be a beacon for others." David nodded, a smile breaking across his face. "Yes, each of us has a role to play in the unfolding of God's plan. Perhaps today is not just about our personal needs, but about growing His kingdom among us." The air filled with renewed energy, and villagers began to stand, adding their voices to Sarah's. "We will care for one another," shouted a young father. "We will share our blessings," proclaimed another. The crescendo of voices rose, creating a spiritual melody that wrapped around the gathering like a warm blanket. Sarah felt her heart expand with every spoken word. Tears shimmered in the corners of many eyes, as hope and encouragement floated through each shared declaration. Outside, the sky began to change, vibrant colors swirling and deepening, as if the heavens were actively responding to their sacred moment. It was a spectacle to behold, drawing gasps from the crowd. "Look!" someone shouted, pointing upwards. The villagers turned in unison to witness the sky transform. What had begun as a tranquil sunset now unraveled into a magnificent display of swirling colors and light that seemed alive. The scene was breathtaking, almost impossible to comprehend. David took a deep breath, grounding the collective energy. This light, it is a sign and affirmation that God is here, listening, guiding us toward his purpose. Sarah felt a pull inside. She was reminded of the struggles they had all faced, the burdens they had carried alone. We must not only accept the light for ourselves, but also reflect it outward, she asserted. Let us take this moment, this divine affirmation, and compel us to act. Share your love, share your faith. You may never know whose life you might touch. A palpable tension of divine urgency hummed in the atmosphere. The villagers nodded, grasping this sacred truth that had ignited within them. It was clear, they were being called to something greater in that moment. As they found their collective voice, an unspoken question hung in the air, begging for clarity. What if this was just the beginning, the first sign of an even grander vision prepared for them? As they stood under the enchanting painting of the heavens, hearts beating in holy unity, it became clear this journey was only starting. What awaited them next? What further wonders would God unfold in their lives? The gathered villagers stood in awe beneath the vibrant canvas of the heavens, their hearts buzzing with inspiration. Every color seemed to echo the powerful words that had just passed between them. A collective heartbeat pulsed in rhythm with the sky as if it too was responding to their unity, inviting them to rise and embrace their newfound calling. Do you feel it? David asked, his voice barely above a whisper, yet imbued with urgency. He scanned the crowd, his eyes wide with wonder. This is more than just a moment. This is a movement. From the back, a young woman stepped forward, her face illuminated by the fading sunlight. What are we to do, David? How do we move from this moment of inspiration to actionable faith? Her voice trembled, but the fervor was palpable. David smiled, understanding the weight of her question. We must begin with ourselves. Each act of kindness, each prayer, and each moment we spend in community counts. It is in our daily choices that God's light can shine brightest. The energy among the villagers shifted from admiration to determination. They could feel the call to action echoing in their spirits. It was a challenge to not only bask in the beauty of the light above, but to harness it within, transforming it into purposeful action. As they began to speak among themselves, Sarah noticed the sky shifting again. The clouds parted to reveal a brilliant star that stood out against the deepening twilight. Look, she cried, pointing to the celestial heart of light. Even the heavens testify of our calling. That star, it feels like a guide. With renewed energy, a few villagers began to share their dreams and aspirations publicly. A weaver spoke of her desire to teach children the art of craft, hoping to instill in them not just skills, but self-worth. A farmer stood to declare his intent to share his harvest with those in need, ensuring no one in their village went hungry. Slowly, more faces lit up as every story brought forth a unique expression of love and service. I will open my home for gatherings, another villager announced, her voice steady. We can share not just blessings, but our pains too, supporting one another. I will lead a group to volunteer at the orphanage, a youth chimed in, enthusiasm spilling from her heart. Each proclamation fanned the flames of their collective ambition. As they envisioned their communities sparked with love and compassion, hope swept through the crowd like a gentle breeze. David, overwhelmed by the outpouring of commitment, raised his hands high. Let us pray together, joining our hearts and voices as one. In that moment, the atmosphere grew thick with expectation, and they formed a circle, hand in hand. As the crowd bowed their heads, they poured out their aspirations to God. Requests for guidance, prayers for strength, and declarations of their intentions filled the air, intertwining like an intricate ribbon. Tears fell freely as some expressed their hurt for past struggles and buried dreams. Others raised voices teeming with exuberance as they asked for courage to step forward into the unknown. A wave of presence washed over Sarah, and she felt compelled to raise her voice once more. Let us not forget that every journey begins with a single step, she exclaimed. May we step out not in fear, but in faith. Let today mark the beginning of a magnificent story that involves every single one of us. The vibrations of their prayers echoed back, reverberating through the heavens above them, mightily aligning their hearts to a divine purpose. But just as they felt the swell of community spirit rise ever higher, a hush fell upon the assembly. They turned their eyes again to the skies, feeling a subtle shift. As the last light of day faded, they caught glimpses of dancing orbs of light shimmering in the darkening sky. "What is that?" someone whispered, spilling from their lips. That in that moment of stunned silence, possibility and expectation danced in their hearts. They exchanged glances, a question shared among them. What divine revelation was emerging from this celestial display? And what were they truly being led towards? With hearts leaping and hands trembling, they prepared to unfold the next chapter of their faith-filled adventure together. The flickering lights above seemed to beckon the villagers closer, each twinkle sharing an ancient secret, a promise of something more profound. A sense of urgency filled the air, as they felt the need to respond to the call issuing from the heavens. David cleared his throat, his face aglow with the shared awe of the moment. "Can you sense the divine breath surrounding us?" he asked, glancing around the gathered faces. "These lights are our encouragement. They are pointing the way to a calling all of us must heed." The onlookers leaned in closer, their eyes reflecting the radiant orbs, as if they were mirrors reflecting faith ignited into action. Sarah found herself captivated by the shimmering, her heart racing. What if this is how God speaks to us? What if these lights are not merely stars, but messages of hope and guidance? A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some nodded in understanding, while others, still uncertain, looked to David for affirmation. It was a moment suspended in time, charged with expectancy, every heart yearning for clarity. David raised his arms, his voice vibrant as he spoke. "Let us not just ponder these signs. It is time to embrace our gifts. Each one of us has something unique to offer. We must express what God has placed in our hearts." The air filled with enthusiasm as more villagers hesitated no longer. Voices and stories flowed, a symphony of shared convictions. An elder spoke of using his voice to share tales from days gone by, weaving lessons of courage and faith into the fabric of their community. A mother rose, declaring her call to create a garden where families could gather to nurture not just vegetables, but relationships. "I will bring music to our gatherings," a young man yelled, inspired by the beauty around him. "Through song, we can uplift one another and honor God's abundant grace." Each declaration was like a spark, igniting passion among the villagers. The night was alive with anticipation, filled with renewed possibility. They felt the thrill of taking steps toward collective transformation, and each voice added an exquisite note to this divine orchestrated gathering. Then suddenly, just as whispers of doubt tried to hinder their spirits, a radiant light burst from the heavens. It was unlike anything they had seen. It shimmered downwards, weaving through the lights until casting a warm glow across them. Gasps mingled with prayers as everyone shielded their eyes from the brilliance. Sarah's heart quickened. Could this be a sign of encouragement? She murmured, as all heads turned skyward. The illumination danced in an almost playful manner, as if inviting them to follow. "Let us not fear. This light does not signify judgment, but love," David proclaimed, emboldening everyone to remain steadfast in their faith. "It is a reminder that we are never alone." Gradually, the villagers began to move. They stepped forward, the whispers of their intentions merging into a single voice. "Let us gather together in this light," a man called out, leading the way toward an open field where the starlit sky above shined even brighter. As they stood in the open space, illuminated by the divine radiance, a sense of unity wrapped around them like a warm blanket. They held their visions tightly, each heart open with expectancy. "Tonight marks the dawn of our transformation," Sarah cried out, deep passion radiating from her every word. Yet just as they sang and rejoiced under the stars, the heralded lights swirled, shifting into a new formation in the sky. The villagers exchanged breaths, heartbeats matching the rhythm of the moment. What was the new message being communicated from above, and how would they interpret it on their journey? As the last notes of their praise echoed into the night, they felt the gentle brush of a breeze, carrying with it the weight of divine anticipation. What lay ahead for this band of believers standing united? It was time to seek what was to come, trusting the guiding star in the sky. In the midst of the shimmering ambience, the villagers stood transfixed, their hearts beating as one, thrumming with the spirit of hope and possibility. The heavens, alive with the dancing lights, seemed to breathe in unison with them. David's voice began to rise again, filling the air with urgency and sincerity. "Look closely. The change is upon us," he declared, drawing the attention of the villagers back to the celestial display above. "These stars are weaving a tale, a story of our journey. Can you see it, friends? Every flicker is a reminder of God's promise weaving its way through our lives." Sarah felt her breath hitch as she gazed upward. The lights shifted, forming shapes that hinted at something beyond comprehension. She clasped her hands together, warmth cascading through her as though the light was reaching down to touch her spirit. "What do you see?" she whispered to the woman beside her. The woman's eyes grew wide, her mouth forming a silent "oh," as she pointed towards a singular burst that split the sky like a brilliant shard of hope. In that moment, the once muted doubts began to vanish. With each heartbeat thumping in her chest, Sarah grasped the flickering lights were more than mere beauty. They were the embodiment of divine guidance. "Let us pray for clarity," David urged, and with that, everyone bowed their heads, creating a sacred circle beneath the canopy of stars. "Lord," David's voice rang out steady and clear, "we gather in faith, desiring to understand your message. Show us our paths. Illuminate our hearts to embrace our calling and strengthen our unique gifts that we may serve one another." The silence that followed was profound, filled with an electric anticipation. Eyes closed, the villagers felt the breeze swirl around them, as if carrying the whispers of angels. "I feel it," Sarah breathed, opening her eyes, her spirit alight with inspiration. "I feel his reassurance." The glow from the sky intensified, casting the ground beneath them into a soft golden light. As excitement swirled, one of the children, a small boy named Ezekiel, stepped forward. "I want to tell a story," he shouted, his voice high and confident. All eyes turned to him, their expressions a mix of admiration and joy. "I want to tell about the time I found a bird and made it my friend. It was so small but brave." We all have a story. This light shows us that our stories matter. Laughter erupted, bursting forth like the petals of a flower blooming at dawn. Each villager's spirit lifted higher, the tension of uncertainty dissolving in a wave of shared purpose. "Ezekiel, yes, our stories matter," Sarah echoed, her voice melding with the infectious enthusiasm of the gathering. "Each story shares joy, pain, and triumph. United in our narratives, we shine brighter under this divine light." The stars began to shift again, forming a loose formation. A sense of divine urgency hung in the air. David stepped forward, heart racing, feeling the ambience thrum with an otherworldly energy. "What are they telling us? Look, it's like they're saying we must be bold." As believers stood awash in purpose, a question arose in their hearts. What was God asking of them? What steps were they to take under this glorious night? Would they find the courage to heed the calling? As the congregation burst into a spirited discussion, inspired curiosity radiating from their collective heart, the lights burst forth, enveloping them in a silver hue. The air crackled with anticipation, and a whisper of divine truth drifted through the gathering. "The path is before you." What awaited them down that chosen path? And how would this unfolding journey transform each one of their stories into something greater? The night had just begun, and the answers felt like the song of the stars, echoing faintly. The night continued to pulse with energy as inspiration intertwined with the stars above, revealing a glimmer of sacred truth. Sarah could feel it deep within her, a spiritual hunger yearning for answers, like a flame flickering against the night's cool breeze. Her heart raced with anticipation, echoing the hope resonating throughout the gathering. "What if?" David pondered, his voice breaking through the spirited conversations, drawing everyone's attention once again. "What if we are to step into the unknown, to forge ahead, inspired by these signs?" His eyes shone with conviction, reflecting the brilliance of the lights overhead. "Stepping into the unknown," a senior villager named Martha echoed thoughtfully. "Are we truly ready, David? What if we stumble? What if we fail?" Each word was heavy with fear, but also laced with the courage typical of the faithful. A moment of silence fell, and Sarah could see the myriad of emotions ripple through her friends. Hope, fear, excitement, and uncertainty. It was a tapestry, each thread woven into their hearts. "Let us not focus on fear," Sarah interjected, her voice trembling yet firm. "What if our reluctance to take that step keeps us from witnessing God's miraculous work? The stars are guiding us. What if they reveal that every stumble is part of His divine plan?" She felt the heat of the moment rise as her words struck deep chords in the hearts of her companions. Martha wrinkled her brow, but couldn't hide the flicker of hope igniting there. "It's true, perhaps it's in our struggles that we find strength." The villagers nodded, their collective understanding beginning to shift. Ezekiel, the little boy whose innocence had sparked laughter moments before, stood firm and shouted again, "And even if we fall, we can get back up again. Like my bird." It was small, but it learned to fly. His bright face radiated pure faith, reminding them all that even in vulnerability, there is potential for soaring above. David stepped closer to the heart of the gathering, sensing the motivation growing. "There is indeed an adventure before us, friends. We must keep our eyes fixed on Him. The lights above us carry a message of faithfulness, of not being alone on this journey." With that, a chorus of amen broke forth, echoing through the night, filling the air with a sound of unity and purpose. Each villager felt themselves draw strength from one another, feeling emboldened beneath the canvas of stars, their hearts stoking the fires of hope. Once more, as the celestial display shimmered vibrantly above, the community grew quieter, their breaths celebrating the moment as they absorbed the divine essence enveloping them. The stars transformed into vivid patterns, each flicker and spark an invitation to not only look outward, but to also look inward with intention. Suddenly, an unexpected hush fell over the crowd as the light began to shift once more. This time, the stars rearranged themselves into the shape of a luminous scroll, glowing gently in the sky. Whispers rippled through the gathering. "What is that? What does it mean?" The tension buzzed with reverence, as each villager felt drawn closer to this heavenly revelation. Could it be a sign? David wondered aloud, his heart thundering in his chest. What might it hold for us? Is it a call to write our own stories, a reminder that the path ahead is not just ours but shared? In the midst of the overwhelming awe and wonder, a still small voice murmured in Sarah's heart, could this be the moment? The moment where they embrace their stories, powerful and interconnected, to give voice to what God had placed upon their hearts. As the villagers gaped at the heavenly scroll, a deeper question arose within them all. What narrative was God inviting them to unravel? And would they dare to write the next chapter together, step into certainty born from faith, and discover the sacred path laid before them? The call to action hung in the air like a sweet promise, waiting to unfold. What lay ahead for the villagers as they prepared to follow this divine nudge? What miraculous journeys awaited them? The tapestry of their lives was ready to be woven anew, filled with hope and unexpected purpose. The atmosphere thickened with anticipation as the villagers stared in awe at the luminous scroll shimmering in the starlit sky. Each flicker seemed to pulse with life, a testament to the divine weaving together of their stories. Sarah felt a stirring within her, a presence urging her to share her thoughts as the scroll seemed to beckon each heart to listen closely. "What if," she began, her voice steady yet soft, "this scroll holds not just a message for us as individuals, but for our community? What if it speaks to the very essence of who we are and who we are called to become?" David turned toward her, his eyes wide with curiosity. "Yes, perhaps it's a call for unity, a sign that we are to join our hearts and voices as one." A murmur of agreement spread among the group, like a gentle breeze rustling through the trees. The fear that had once surfaced began to fade, replaced by a shared eagerness to seek the meaning hidden within the glow above. Martha stepped forward, her expression softening. "We must be brave enough to decipher what God is revealing to us. As we come together in prayer, let us ask for understanding, for clarity." A wave of nods echoed this sentiment as the villagers formed a circle, hands linking together in a show of solidarity. As their palms met, an energy surged, a palpable warmth weaving through their connection. Eyes closed, they lifted their voices in unison, the chorus rising higher and higher into the stillness of the night. Lord, guide us. Show us the path you want us to take. Open our hearts to receive your wisdom. As their prayers floated into the cosmos, they felt the chill of the night subside, replaced by a heavenly warmth that wrapped around them like a comforting embrace. Sarah opened her eyes, swept away by the exuberance of the moment, and gazed again at the scroll. It brimmed with a radiant brilliance, and she could almost hear it whispering to her soul in that sacred silence. Ezekiel's laughter floated through the air, breaking the momentary peace. What if we are the ones meant to write on that scroll? He exclaimed, his innocence illuminating the heavy atmosphere. What if we get to tell everyone about the adventures we have? The villagers laughed lightly, feeling the tension ease and the truth of his words hang in the air. That childlike wonder opened a door to possibilities yet unseen. Why not? David replied, excitement bubbling in his words. Let us not wait for the answers to drop into our laps. We can be proactive. We can seek out what this truly means. With renewed fervor, the crowd began to discuss ideas, dreams, and visions. They spoke of journeys they wished to embark upon together, serving the community, supporting one another through hardship, and sharing joy in times of celebration. Each thought seemed to sparkle under the stars, weaving their hopes together like a vibrant tapestry. Yet in the midst of this hopeful chatter, Sarah felt a deeper call stirring within her. A flash of inspiration hit her. What if our stories don't just wait to be written, but require us to step out and live them boldly? Could we take these first steps tonight? Again, excitement crackled in the air as the villagers exchanged eager glances, a common determination igniting their spirits. The time had come not just to stand under the stars, but to let them guide their actions. But just then, as if reflecting the divine intermingling of their hearts, the luminous scroll shimmered brighter, a sudden twist of light capturing their attention. A new pattern emerged, unfolding like petals of a flower, deepening the mystery of this starry message. What could it mean? This unexpected revelation filled the group with a mixture of awe and trepidation. As they stared at the celestial beauty, one question hung poignantly in the stillness. What further secrets lay hidden in the divine tapestry above them, waiting to be unfolded? As the unfolding scroll illuminated the night sky, the villagers felt an overwhelming sense of connection, a tapestry woven intricately from their shared faith and hopes. Sarah looked around, her heart swelling with unity. Each face radiated anticipation, eyes glistening like stars, mirroring the unspoken yearning for purpose and direction. The moment was sacred, like the stillness before a storm. Look, Sarah said, her voice ringing clear. What if we are called to embody this scroll? To turn our dreams into action? A collective gasp accompanied her words, an awakening echoing through the hearts of the gathered. David stepped forward, brimming with energy. Yes, what if our stories and dreams are the very ink with which we write the scroll? We need to step out and boldly embrace this mission. The atmosphere shifted, reverberating with agreement. The stars twinkled even brighter, reflecting the spark igniting within each villager. They began to brainstorm, ideas bouncing around like joyous birds taking flight. I want to start a community garden, a young woman declared, her passion contagious. We can gather to grow food and foster friendships. I will organize prayer circles, chimed in another. Together we can support one another through the trials and joys. Each proclamation grew more vibrant, stitching their promises into the tapestry of hope. Sarah felt the spirit of encouragement waft through the gathering, lifting hearts and igniting flames of creativity. Yet through this joyous uprising, a whisper of doubt flickered in Sarah's mind. But what if we fail? What if the drought returns? She quickly quashed her own fears, focusing instead on the glowing promise of possibility. Suddenly, Ezekiel jumped into the center of the circle. I believe that as we share our stories, God will provide. His childlike faith radiated through the group, reminding them that the essence of belief rested in trust, not in certainty. With renewed vigor, they formed a collective circle, each hand clasped tightly, a literal and symbolic bond of commitment to one another. David lifted his voice high, calling upon the divine presence in their midst. Lord, bless our plans. Give us strength, guide our steps, and inspire us to believe in the abundance you have promised. As they prayed, a warmth enveloped them, a vast blanket of heavenly assurance that they were not alone. Remember, we walk not by sight, but by faith, Sarah added, her voice trembling yet strong. Our actions, no matter how small, can spark miracles. Above them, the luminous scroll shifted once more, bathing the villagers in a dazzling light. A new affirmation echoed through Sarah's heart, and she felt a profound sense of peace envelop her spirit. Moments passed, but the glow persisted, enveloping them in a sacred embrace. The village secret unfolded in whispers and laughter as they began to step into their newfound purpose. Under the canvas of rapidly shifting stars, the villagers laughed and shared stories until hopes and dreams evolved into commitments, actionable steps born from faith's depths. I'll spread the word about community meals, one shouted, and I'll make sure we have gatherings to celebrate our victories. Another declared. As declaration followed declaration. They began to see the divine favor wrap around them. For within their unity, faith had transformed fear into action, doubt into hope, a vibrant testament to the miracles God could weave through his people. That night, as the stars shined brighter than ever, they saw not just glimmers in the sky, but signs of the divine calling them toward a shared future of love, healing, and community. Let us go forth, illuminating this village with our stories, David encouraged, his voice breaking through the crescendo of excitement. For we are the light. Together we will transform Oak Ridge. As the villagers erupted in cheers, a wave of faith pulsed through them. Each heart beat in rhythm, a sacred cadence propelling them forward. And so, hand in hand beneath the shimmering sky, they stepped into a new season, a season of miracles, healing, and purpose, entwined in faith and love. This was not just the end, but the beginning of something beautiful, a manifestation of divine potential exploding into life. As they embraced their journey, each villager silently vowed to become a beacon of light in the world, knowing that together, guided by faith, they could conquer any drought, heal any wound, and breathe life into every dream. Now, dear friends, if your heart was stirred, if you felt the Holy Spirit resonate within you through this story, you need to subscribe immediately. Don't miss the next exclusive faith stories that could transform your life. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because it makes a real difference in sharing hope with others. Comment your reactions and testimonies about this powerful ending. Your words may be the spark someone else needs to ignite their own journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation. Only true servants of God understand the importance of spreading this message. Let us shine brightly together.